The slap rang out through Dust Creek like gunfire, stopping Cole Mackenzie cold. The sun blasted through the grimy window of Blackwood's general store, and Cole saw everything, no question about it. A man's hand cracked across a young woman's face. This missed her as easily as a rancher shooing a fly. Her head snapped sideways, but she didn't cry. Instead, she pulled herself up shoulders straight, chin high, and faced that cruel moment with a silence that felt, honestly, more dignified than most men could ever muster. Cole's fingers, grizzled and scarred from years lived rough, inched toward his 45 before he even noticed he was moving. For 5 years, he'd hunted dangerous men and learned the value of keeping out of trouble that wasn't his. But there was something about the girl's iron calm. It hit him right in the chest, twisting old memories he'd tried to bury. She reminded him of someone he'd already lost, someone he couldn't save anymore. Their eyes met through the glass. Her gaze was dark, proud, aching, carrying 3 tough years of pain under a layer of stubborn courage. It was almost like fate stepped out of the dust and pointed right at him. Walking away wasn't an option. That's just how it felt. Like something he'd been running from finally caught up. Cole Mackenzie hadn't believed in second chances for a long time. 42 years old, and his face pretty much mapped the hard miles since that September night in Tombstone. One dead rustler, a long ride home, and then everything burned. Sarah and little Emma gone before he could pull them out. Now he drifted from town to town, quick at the draw and known for dishing out the kind of justice folks whispered about. They called him Fast Draw Mackenzie. The name got him through doors but closed them behind him too. He'd come to Dust Creek hunting a $200 bounty on some 2-bit rustler named Wakem Morales. But when that slap shattered the quiet, he forgot all about Morales. Inside the store, car whispering wind crouched, gathering shards from a busted whiskey bottle. She moved carefully, slow and quiet, like someone who's learned even tiny mistakes could cost them. 19. Proudly apache, but the years under Silas Blackwood carved deep shadows under her eyes. Her lip bled, her hands quivered, her spirit didn't. Blackwood loomed over her, mean as a storm. Clumsy half-breed, he growled. That bottle cost me $2. $2 you'll pay off at 50 cents a week. Carr didn't answer, just reached for another glass piece. Sun catching on the turquoise necklace her mother had given her, the last thing she had from family. Cole shoved open the door, bell singing against the silence. Blackwood spun on him but froze, probably sensing the danger in the way Cole stood, tall, steady, like a man who'd lived through things most folks never dream of. Cole's eyes swept over everything. Raised hand, shaking fingers, fear hanging thick in the air. Problem here, mister? Cole asked. Blackwood gave a bitter snort. Just teaching my workers some manners. Cole looked back to Carr, her face bruised, but her spirit still intact. He caught the ember of courage beneath all that pain, just waiting for the wind. Later, Cole nursed a whiskey in the Dusty Rose saloon. It tasted more like regret than anything else. Everyone in Dust Creek knew what Blackwood did to Carr, but nobody intervened. Sheriff Dawkins was on Blackwood's payroll. Town council scared to stand up. It was Martha Williams, the widow who ran the boarding house, who finally slid into the chair across from him. She sighed quietly. "You've got that look in your eye," she said. "My husband used to have it right before doing something brave enough to get himself killed." Cole tightened his jaw. "Feels like someone ought to do something." Martha shook her head. "Blackwood owns half this town," she warned. "And the sheriff. And anyone who finds it easier to bend than to stand up straight." Cole looked at her, frustrated. "Why hasn't anyone helped her?" Martha's eyes grew soft with shame. "She's Apache. She's poor. Dust Creek blinks away suffering when it doesn't look like them. But Carr's a good girl. Too good for the hand she's been dealt. That night, Cole lay in bed, the mattress squeaking every time he turned. He couldn't shake Car's eyes, not just the pain, but something else. Hope. He hadn't seen real hope in years. Not since Sarah and Emma. Hope for something better than being beaten in the back of a dusty store. At dawn, he headed into the hills hunting Morales. A drunken cowhand had mentioned Morales camping near Blackwood's property. Cole tracked him down easily enough. But what he found chilled him deeper than any night when Blackwood wasn't just mean. He was in league with cattle thieves, hiding rustlers on his land and pocketing stolen money. The man-beating Carr was the same one poisoning the town. Meanwhile, in her small room over the store, Carr tended her bruises alone. She touched the turquoise, whispered her mother's prayer for strength and freedom, and looked out the window. She spotted Cole walking toward town, steady as a man who had finally made his decision. Whatever he was planning, it felt like her life was about to change. High noon in Dust Creek blazed hot as Cole walked into Blackwood's store again. This time, he wasn't a customer. He'd hauled a rustler tie to his saddle, proof he'd finished what he came for. But there was something else burning in him, something way bigger than a bounty. Carl stood behind the counter, stocking shelves with careful hands, watching every move. She'd seen men like Blackwood all her life, never seen a man like Cole. Cole nodded at her, then fixed his gaze on Blackwood. "I hear you've got a worker who owes you a debt," he said, voice steady as iron. "What's it to you?" Blackwood shot back. "I'm buying her contract." "Name your price." Carr froze, and the whole store seemed to freeze with her. Blackwood puffed up, trying to look tougher than he felt. "She ain't for sale." Cole stepped forward, slow and sure. "Everything's for sale. The only real question is whether you want cash or lead." People pressed to the windows, hungry for the drama. Dust Creek might ignore injustice, but it never ignored a fight. $300, Blackwood blurted, and damages for interfering. Cole slid a folded paper from his vest. "Sheriff Dawkins told me last night debt bondage was outlawed years ago." "That means your contract isn't worth the paper it's printed on." Blackwood's face went dark, hands twitching toward his pistol, but Cole had his coat up, pressed to Blackwood's forehead before he could move. The room hushed except for Carr's ragged breaths. "I wouldn't," Cole said. "I already sent word to the US-Marshal about your cattle operation. You make one bad move, and they won't bother with a trial." Then Carr stepped up, smooth and strong like wind rolling over stone, holding a thinner pash knife. "The kind a woman keeps hidden until she's got nowhere left to run." "I don't need anyone to buy my freedom," she said, voice steady. "I was never his property." Blackwood backed up, fear flickering in his eyes. "This ends now," Cole said. "The girl walks free and gets paid for the last 3 years." 2 hours later, people watched something Dust Creek had never seen. Car whispering, wind riding out of town, face lifted, spirit shining. Silas Blackwood stood boiling on his porch, while Sheriff Dawkins tried to look like justice had been his idea all along. Carl rode in silence next to Cole as the town faded behind them, the desert rolling out in every direction, open, endless, unforgiving. She never dropped her guard. Too many times she'd seen men show kindness with one hand, only to snatch it back with the other. "You didn't have to do that," she said, almost whispering. Cole replied, "Yeah, I did." She turned and finally met his eyes, really saw him. There was pain there, old pain, the kind that digs deep and never lets up. It had shaped his face, carved out the hard lines, made him the man he was now. "Why?" she asked, cutting right to the heart of it. Cole hesitated. 5 years ago, he started. "I had a wife and daughter, Sarah and Emma. Left them one night chasing a bounty. Came back. The house was gone. Burned. They were gone. I told myself some things can't be fixed. Some people can't be saved. But today, I decided I'm done believing that. Carl felt something twist inside her chest. Nobody had ever spoken to her with this kind of honesty. Nobody had looked at her with this kind of care. That night, they camped under cottonwoods by a cold stream. Carl washed the blackwood store dust from her skin. Cole got a fire going, pretending not to watch her. But she kept catching him glancing her way. She noticed it, the awkwardness, the admiration, but he meant no harm. Carl was beautiful, but not in a fragile way. The land had made her strong, left her battered and scarred. But she stood unbroken. What happens when we reach San Carlos? She asked. That's your call, Cole said. I'll take you home if you want. Or if not, the territory's big enough for anyone ready for a new start. And you? Carl pushed. Maybe I'll start over too, he replied. Depends if I find a reason. The fire crackled, filling the silence. The night pressed in, wrapping them both in dark warmth. Cole stared at the stars, unable to sleep. Carl edged closer, her voice barely a whisper. I used to dream someone would hold me. Someone who didn't treat me like a burden. Cole shifted, looking at her. You are not a burden, he said quietly. You're the first right thing I've found in 5 years. Carl leaned against him as the fire faded, and for the first time in years, Cole felt something besides the ache of grief or the sting of anger. Hope, weak, but growing WY morning, they reached the San Carlos reservation border. Joe's crow feather someone Carl had grown up with stood waiting, eyes sharp, locking onto Cole. Did he buy you?